How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today we're looking at how much Bitcoin you need by age. And I thought of this because I had seen so many videos on YouTube. How much money you should have in your 401k by age. What's the average 401k balance by age? 401k savings by age. And there's so many videos like this. Even how much your net worth should be at certain ages from Graham Stephan and other big creators. So I thought, why not look at how much Bitcoin you need by age? And this is really difficult. This is something that is very different from those videos. And I'll explain why that is, but we'll take a look at some different scenarios. And of course, there are some assumptions we have to make. We have to look at how much Bitcoin you want. We have to look at what your salary is. We have to look at where Bitcoin will be 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the line. And I'm going to make some assumptions, but of course, you can always change these for your own thought process, for where you think Bitcoin will be and your own situation. Now, if you don't mind just hitting the like button and subscribe button, maybe share this to someone that you know that would like it. And then just, again, make sure you hit that subscribe button because usually we do daily videos or every other day on what's happening in the market. But sometimes we get to do these fun videos where we get to break down the future and look at how much money we could actually have in the future. So let's take a look at the spreadsheet. So in this first scenario, I want to explore how this all works because this is very different from something like a 401k. With a 401k, we basically assume that you'll be getting 8 to 10% a year, and it's really dependent on your age and how much you invest. Those are really the only two things. Of course, we have to take into assumption how much the market will grow. But Bitcoin is very different, and you'll see that here in a moment. So at first, I just want to take a look and see, what could an average person coming out of college be able to invest? Because I know coming out of college, I wasn't making much money. I was making a little bit more than $35,000, but right around there. And I think that's realistic for a lot of people. So if you're age 22 and you're coming out of college with $35,000, let's say you're able to invest 10% and you want to invest 20% of that 10% into Bitcoin. Because I'm not going to go out there and say you should invest your entire portfolio in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more risky than a lot of other assets. And maybe you want to invest in your 401k to a match and you don't have that option yet to invest into Bitcoin, but you have some extra money you invest into Bitcoin. That would mean that you would have about 2% of your income that you're investing into Bitcoin overall, which would be about $700. So let's say Bitcoin's price is $22,000 right now. It's right around there right now. You'd be able to buy about 3/100ths of a Bitcoin throughout the year. This is assuming you started with no Bitcoin now. After that, we're going to assume that you continue to invest. You got a small raise, a 3% raise, which is good, but obviously cost of living goes up. And let's say you're able to invest just 0.5% more this year. So instead of 10% of this $36,000, now you're able to invest 10.5%. And then you decide, I want to invest the same amount into Bitcoin. You invest $757 into Bitcoin, but Bitcoin price goes up over time. We're saying this is 2023 basically right now, but of course the price is not going to go up linearly. I made it exponential on here because as time goes on, obviously we're going to have bigger and bigger fluctuations in price. If Bitcoin's at 500,000, it's going to fluctuate a lot more on a daily basis. But I also accounted for some drawdowns in Bitcoin over the coming years, as you'll see. So you're able to buy a lot less because the price is actually $44,000. So even though you're investing a little bit more into Bitcoin, the fact is it's much more expensive. So you're able to buy less. By the end of the second year, you're at about 5/100ths of a Bitcoin. And then let's go down the line here a bit. And we have different scenarios too. So we're going to look at different incomes. You keep on getting these 3% raises. You keep on investing slightly more each year overall because you're just able to invest more. And then you keep the 20% going to Bitcoin specifically. So you're able to invest more and more as time goes on. About 10 years down the line, you're investing about $1,400 into Bitcoin each year. But what I did was I assumed that we went up pretty drastically at first, right? About 2x a year up until you're 25. So 3 years down the line, we're going to say Bitcoin's at 176,000, and then we're going to say it gets cut in half. Usually we have about 70 to 80% drawdowns, but I'm thinking by the middle of the decade or late decade, the fact is we're not going to draw down as drastically here in 2026 as we are now because we'll have more institutional money, more pension money, stuff like that. So as that goes on, we have another big year of dip, and then we start moving up again. Of course, you can mess with these numbers. Then I'm saying that by 2030, we actually hit a $1 million Bitcoin. But then I'm going to say it takes a year off. It doesn't go up at all that year. Everyone's dumbfounded by the fact that it's gone up to $1 million. Some people take profits. Some people just hold on. There's going to be a lot of volatility, I'm sure, around $1 million. And then I'm going to say that the price appreciation decreases. So instead of, 2x here, and then I moved it to a smaller amount over here, I started to go by 1.7, and then we stopped it all together. Instead of that, we're just going to assume that we go up 20% a year for a few years, and then it actually is going to go up 12%, just because otherwise the numbers get too crazy. So as you can see, you're investing more and more, but the fact is you're not even getting 1,000th of a Bitcoin at this point because the price of a Bitcoin is so expensive. So unfortunately, you're going to invest for another 20 years, let's say, and this is not accounting for any drawdowns here. This is just assuming that it continues to go up at a 12% clip each year. The fact is, by the end of it, you're barely getting any Bitcoin. So you had about 90% of your Bitcoin about 10 years in, 11 years in, and the last 10% you get over the coming 20 years, and you're investing more and more each year to the point at the end, you're investing 4,200. So by the end, you have over 0.1 Bitcoin, which is fantastic. That's more than most people will have on Earth. But the fact is, it's not one Bitcoin. It's not even $1 million of inflation-adjusted returns. So we're going to look at how you could do it differently here in a second. But you can see by the end, you do have a total value of about 1.2 million, which is fantastic because you were able to get a lot. And the fact is, in this scenario, 30 years down the line, Bitcoin's at $12 million. Some people think it's going to be much higher than that. Some people think much less, obviously. And then the inflation adjusted amount is about 525,000, assuming 3% inflation. Now, I realize there are a lot of numbers. I really like numbers, so that's how I'm breaking it down. Now, let's say in this scenario, you start, but instead of being 22 like up here, you're actually 32. And we're going to take the same salary that you have here at 32, and we're going to move it over to this scenario. So you have $47,000. We're going to say you're investing the same amount that you were in this other scenario at 32. And this is the difference between a 401k scenario and a Bitcoin scenario. The difference is Bitcoin's price moves up so quickly. The fact is, if you can invest more, even if you're later in the game, even if you're 32 instead of 22, if you can invest more right now, typically you're going to be able to get a lot more Bitcoin. So the reason for that, again, is because the later years, you're barely picking up any Bitcoin. But here, let's say you're able to invest 15% of your income of $47,000, so a higher base salary, and 20% of that goes into Bitcoin. So just 3% of this overall salary is going into Bitcoin, about $1,400. You can pick up a lot more Bitcoin. As time goes on, we're going to assume that you get up to the same age, 52 years old. You did 20 years of investing instead of 30, but you have almost double the Bitcoin here. Isn't that kind of crazy, right? Even though you're investing 10 years later, you're able to get about twice as much Bitcoin because you're able to buy a lot more right now. And that's where the 401k changes. Now, the total value is actually less than in this scenario, but that's because we had 10 years less compounding on the price of Bitcoin. So instead of a $12 million Bitcoin, we're actually assuming a $4 million Bitcoin. So the total value is less, but the amount of Bitcoin is actually 85.5% more Bitcoin in this scenario. Now, of course, these are kind of arbitrary numbers. Everyone's going to have a different situation. Some people have Bitcoin already as well. Now, I think those scenarios aren't great because of the fact that we aren't able to get to our Bitcoin goals. Let's say you have a higher salary. Let's say you have $65,000 a year. You're investing 33% of it. I think that's a good amount to invest, and that's a good amount to shoot to invest out of your income. 33% is fantastic. Then let's say instead of investing 20% into Bitcoin, we're going to say you have more of a dynamic DCA. So we're going to look at a couple of different scenarios after this, but let's say you're able to invest more right now because you realize the price of Bitcoin is going to go up pretty drastically at the beginning, and it's going to move up really quickly, and you can buy the most now. So you invest 62% of this investing money into Bitcoin just the first year, right? You just want to get more Bitcoin at the beginning. So you're able to invest $13,000 of your $65,000 salary. You're able to get 0.6 of a Bitcoin. And then you drop that down drastically because you realize, hey, that was probably a little bit much to put into Bitcoin, but it's starting to do well because you're already at $44,000 Bitcoin and you're able to pretty much double your money first year. You say, okay, even though I'm investing a little bit more, my salary's gone up, I'm going to dial this back to only 30% Bitcoin. So you buy $6,700 worth, you're able to get 0.15 Bitcoin that year. So you're up to 3/4 of a Bitcoin, and then you keep on dialing it down. You dial it down to 20% for the next 3 years, and then you're going to dial it down 2% every 5 years after that. So by the end of your investing journey, you're only investing about 12% of your investing into Bitcoin specifically. And again, that's because you know that you have a lot of Bitcoin already and you have a lot of wealth in Bitcoin because it's going to outperform. So the fact is, it's probably a larger portion of your portfolio at this point than you would want if you were just trying to balance it out. So by the end, you actually have a significant amount of Bitcoin. You actually have almost one full Bitcoin in this scenario. And again, we're going to 50 here instead of 52 like the first couple scenarios, but Bitcoin is at $9 million. So $9 million, you have almost one Bitcoin. You almost have $10 million at this point. And if we went 1 year into the future to when you're 51, fact is that this would go up another 12%, and then you would have over $10 million. The inflation adjusted return of this too, or the inflation adjusted amount that this is worth is about 3.7 million, assuming 3% inflation. So this is a better scenario where you're able to buy a lot more right now. And that's one of the things that I'm doing right now. I'm buying more Bitcoin now, or putting more of my percentage into Bitcoin that I'm trying to invest than I probably will down the line, because I realize that there's a really high ROI potential right now. But as time goes on and as Bitcoin becomes more and more valuable and it just becomes a lot more institutionally invested, the fact is it won't fluctuate in price nearly as much. Now let's go through one more scenario. Actually, a couple more scenarios here. Let's say you just want to invest the same amount. So this is where we're just going to assume that you want to invest a flat amount every single year. This is how much Bitcoin you'd need right now if you want to invest the same amount each year. You need about 0.4 Bitcoin right now, and you need to invest about $8,700, assuming our price targets, again, because it's so dependent on the price targets. If you wanted to invest and get to 1 Bitcoin by 2050, you need to invest $8,700, basically, $8,690. So that would buy you 0.39 Bitcoin this year. Next year, at 44,000, it would buy you 0.197. And then each year, it would buy you less and less, pretty much. And you would eventually get to 1 Bitcoin worth about $10 million by 2050. So that is one scenario. Let's say you wanted a full Bitcoin by 2030, though. So you invested $9,275, so not that much more actually. And that's, again, a function of how quickly Bitcoin's price goes up in these scenarios. Fact is, you only have to invest about 10% more, and you can get the same amount of Bitcoin in 20 less years because, again, your purchasing power goes so much further at the beginning. So you were able to buy about 0.79 Bitcoin after just the first 4 years, and then the next 6 years, you're going to be working to get that last 0.81. So, or that last 0.21. So the fact is, it does work a lot better for you in this scenario if you're able to invest just a couple $100 more, just so you don't have to invest for the next 20 years. But again, that's assuming that Bitcoin keeps on going up. And then the last scenario I want to walk you through is more of a dynamic DCA into Bitcoin. So let's take a look at this. You invest into Bitcoin $12,000 this year. So instead of this scenario where you're investing $9,275, you're able to invest at an average basis of $22,000. You're able to buy over half a Bitcoin. Then each year after this, you only put in a little bit less than you did the year before. So you put in 2% less. You're able to get up to 1.25 Bitcoin, which by the end of the scenario, that inflation adjusted amount is actually over $1 million. The total amount is 1.27. So this is another good scenario where you invest more at the beginning and you actually invest less over time. And this would make you a inflation adjusted millionaire after just 8 or 9 years. So the fact is, it does make more sense. If you think Bitcoin's going to go up in price pretty drastically over the coming 10, 20 years, it makes more sense to try to funnel more money in now. The fact is, even here, you could sell a fifth of your Bitcoin and still be a whole coiner. You could still take out $250,000 in profits, which is actually more than you had invested this whole time. In this scenario, you only invested about $100,000. So this is a really good scenario, I think, to try to work towards trying to invest more at first. And this is also when there's the most risk, to be honest. But the reason this is so much different than the 401k videos, where it's just really easy, like you need this amount because if you just keep on dollar cost averaging at this amount, at this age, you're going to get up to this amount of money at this age. The fact is, it's really dependent on buying early, buying now, or buying soon while the price is down. Bitcoin is much more volatile with much higher upside potential in the short term. We're not just assuming that we're going to get the same rate of return every single year like we do in these 401k videos. The fact is, it doesn't matter your age as much as it matters how much you buy early. Also, Bitcoin's price appreciation will drastically decrease in upside 10 years down the road. So time is really precious, i.e. $10,000 10 years down the line is worth much less than $10,000 now. $10,000 now, like in these scenarios, is almost half a Bitcoin. But 10 years down the line, that's 1/100th of a Bitcoin. So again, you have to know that time is precious. Now, I'm not saying to go put all your money into crypto right now because a lot of it comes down to psychology as well. Can you handle the volatility? Can you handle having your purchasing power go down in Bitcoin, or the value, the USD value of your Bitcoin go down drastically? I don't know. So that's why I continue to dollar cost average, but I'm doing that more heavily now than I plan on doing 10, 20, 30 years down the line, because I realize I'll have a lot of USD value in Bitcoin at that point. It's probably going to outpace a lot of my other assets. The fact is, that's when I might start actually decreasing my value in Bitcoin, is 10, 20, 30 years down the line, when I want to buy other assets. And I realize that there's less upside potential in Bitcoin than there was right now. So it's all a time game with Bitcoin. It's very different than a 401k. It's much more important to get your hands on it early. Like if you had bought 4 years ago or 8 years ago, that purchasing power went so much further than right now. You could have bought 10 Bitcoin for $1,000 in the last decade. But right now, there's no way of doing that. There's no way of getting close to that. You would need $200,000 to buy 10 Bitcoin. So that is how much you need by age. It depends on what you're looking for, but I think really it just depends on what your income is, what you're comfortable investing into Bitcoin, and then what's your goal, right? What is your goal? Do you want just 1 Bitcoin? Do you want 5? Do you want 10? Do you want to invest the same every year? Do you want to invest more upfront because you realize it will go further right now? And it matters what you assume Bitcoin's price will be years down the line. I think that this was kind of an aggressive scenario, but not very aggressive. We're talking about 2025, the price being just 2.5 times higher than it was in the previous bull run. So that I don't think is too aggressive. I think maybe some people would have a problem with 2030, it being $1 million, but I think that's very possible. Now, I want to hear your thoughts underneath the video. If you stayed to this point in the video, let me know in the comment section. Also hit that subscribe and the bell notification so you get future videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.